Security and the Pentagon to start expanding migrant operations at Guantanamo Bay. Now, his border czar, Tom Homan, said that he expects that Immigrations and Customs Enforcement would be running this operation and that they would be flying migrants down there.
A federal judge today sentencing former Senator Bob Menendez to 11 years in prison for bribery and acting as a foreign agent to aid Egypt and Qatar. While serving as chair of the Foreign Relations Committee, Menendez vows to appeal. The Federal Reserve Board wrapped up its two-day policy meeting, keeping interest rates unchanged for now. This is ABC News. Scientists studying asteroid samples fetched by NASA say the samples could reveal clues on how life developed on Earth.
A NASA spacecraft scraped the asteroid Bennu, then delivered a canister with dust and pebbles to the Utah desert in 2023. Research team studies appeared in the journals Nature and Nature Astronomy. They confirmed the presence of sodium-rich minerals, amino acids, nitrogen in the form of ammonia, and even parts of the genetic code, building blocks for life in a water world. It's the strongest evidence yet that asteroids may have planted the seeds of life on Earth.
ABC's Chuck Sievertson. Starbucks says it plans to cut about 30% of food and drink options from its menu later this year. The move comes as fewer customers are buying from the coffee chain. Starbucks sales dipped 4% in the U.S. and worldwide in the latest quarter compared to a year earlier. It is the fourth straight quarterly decline. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Someone had a birthday.
Yep, 50. Can't believe it.
50 years of wisdom.
Great segue. We have health news, a CDC update.
Pneumococcal vaccination is now recommended for adults 50 or older. Says here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just one dose, and millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. And happy 50th.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grosvenor.
All right. Can you there, Chris? I can't hear you, but you can hear me. Todd's not here. He fell back out.
You got me now?
Yeah, there you are.
Okay. Well, the setting said it was set for this microphone, but when you couldn't hear me, I assumed it was the wrong one. Anyway, no, I was saying I've got multiple microphones here, so but it usually isn't a problem. Anyway, I was just saying good evening and more news out of America, where Donald Trump just announced that they'll repurpose the Guantanamo naval base to house 30,000 criminal alien invaders. Boy, I tell you what, man. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. My hands go up, and they stay there, and they stay there. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Todd's back. I think you got the lead tonight, Todd, or is it John?
It's Todd's lead tonight. He's about as ready as I am, I think. I'm over here messing with technology. I accidentally hit this button and messed everything up. Man, I'm just fumbling all left and right.
Yeah, your camera angle's all messed up. I can't even see the streets clearly tonight.
I'll fix that. I'll get up there and fix that camera because we gotta have some backdrop there.
Yeah. So yeah, I was wondering what the heck was going on. I had my new setup with my MacBook, had my microphone. I tested this with Restream a couple of times last night and today. And then all of a sudden, whenever it wasn't working there for a second, I was like, wait a minute, don't tell me this isn't working right. So I switched back to my iPhone. Holy cow, I didn't know you were having an issue there. Sorry. But That's
No, you know
okay.
what, Todd? I've had some issues with people on their laptops and their desktops not
Yeah.
having microphone audio. I don't know what's going on with that. They won't give them a microphone. It'll give them the camera, won't give them the microphone. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
well, I was testing it with Restream, just whatever the free service is there, and I was trying to, get it to work. I had it working perfect. I had my mic, had headphones, and all of a sudden I was like, "Oh no, it's not going to work." So I quickly switched back to my phone for the night. So, but we'll figure it out. Next couple of days, I'm going to go get a new router. But anyway, we are back with the Common Sense Conserves right here on WSM 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. We do have a guest that's going to be coming on here in just a moment, Joni Bryan, who is the founder and director of the 917 Society. She's going to discuss about the 917 Society and what it does. And at the same time, the 4th annual 917 Society fundraiser, which is going to be coming up here in Tennessee and Leapers Fork, which I probably mispronounced that, in Tennessee. That's going to have Tucker Carlson as their special guest. So whenever John comes back on, I think he's doing a little adjustment of the camera. We'll bring in Joni if she's ready to rock and roll.
Well, you confused me with the information about our guest tonight. I saw a banner you sent me with Tucker Carlson. I'm like, how did you get Tucker Carlson? I had to tell people about this. Kind of threw me for a loop there.
Right. Well, I didn't know all the other links that I texted came through, but I put it in the email, so I sent that. And yeah, it is what it is. But John, right now, for the folks who are listening to us on the radio, he's adjusting the camera in the studio, and he does all the little technology things there, bringing in guests, etc. Handling the phones, all those good things. Because I'm in Northeast Tennessee, and of course, Colonel Chris White, our guest host, is in Central PA, and John holds down the studio. But John, are we ready for Joni? Is she in the waiting room?
I would love to bring Joni in, Todd, but I think she needs, did you send her a link?
I'm not a guest host.
What's that?
You said guest host. I'm not a guest host.
Sorry. Did I say that?
Yeah.
Co-host. Sorry. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Did you
host.
send her a link?
I did.
Yeah, you might have to send her a link if she didn't have one already, because she hasn't shown up yet.
Okay.
Or maybe she's off on the time thinking it's Central Time and not realizing.
Oh my gosh! If she's having trouble getting in, I don't know what in the world we'll possibly talk about tonight. What could we ever talk about if she's not available?
Joe Biden's DEI spending in places like Ecuador and Colombia, and
she said she's on the link. Do I just wait? Let me let her know she needs to log.
Okay, he's just okay. They'll sort that out. Just admin. John, I must say that the studio has great sound quality. Your voice sounds very clear tonight. Easy to see.
Awesome. I'm glad somebody's equipment is working. I know my home studio. I fight with that computer left and right. It keeps dropping my volume on me, and that's darn Google does it to me every time.
Yeah, no, that happens. That's for darn sure. So, yeah, while we wait for our guest, folks, I mean, it's just unbelievable, the pace. I mean, I don't know how you keep up with this. I mean, I have not even had time to work on my taxes because every time I do analysis and try to do a video to get ahead of Trump, he comes out with another announcement, John. I can't keep up.
Yeah. Which one did he come out with recently?
Well, the one that just came out a short while ago is Guantanamo Bay will be repurposed to house 30,000 criminal alien invaders. Yeah, as part of signing the Lake and Riley agreement, he put that executive order out. This is wow. Yeah, I love it is right. Yeah.
Love it.
This man is a man on fire. I'll tell you what.
He's moving with a purpose.
He knows he's got 4 years to get it done, and he's going to work relentlessly, tirelessly for 4 years.
There's no doubt about that. And, these people who are 18 can't keep up with him. He's 78 years old. The guy is the Energizer Bunny. I thought I was the Energizer Bunny, but this guy's he's challenging me. He's got 18 years on me, so I think he's winning.
And I'll tell you what now, Caroline Leavitt is his secretary. What is it? Press secretary?
Press secretary.
And right. Youngest ever, youngest press secretary ever at 27 years of age. She's from here in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And she announced that they're going to open up the press pool to everybody. No more just legacy media. You're talking about like people with podcasts, as podcasters can get press credentials, I guess, through them. And so they want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to get the news directly from the Trump administration and have fair advantage.
Well, they promised that would be the case on the campaign, and their promises made, promises kept. Before she finished telling the public what the URL is, I was already on the site and filled out my request for press credentials.
Awesome. James did too from the We Have the America Talks. is a new show that we have here at TIBN, and he did the same thing. As soon as he saw it, he's like, "Yep, that's us. We're getting it." I'm like, "Are you going to DC, James?" He goes, "No, but I'll have them. So when I go, I'll have them."
Right. Yeah.
Well, the challenge, of course, is that, tens of thousands of people are going to ask for it, and they're not going to give tens of thousands of sets of press credentials out.
No.
And they also, I've already seen it favoring Axios and Breitbart. And they're calling them non-traditional. They're not non-traditional in this day and age. That they may not be legacy media, but they're mainstream media. They're not cutting edge like they once were.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, they did this during the first administration for the first, 100 days or first few months, and then it kind of fell by the wayside. I don't know what happened, but so I'm glad they're
Acosta.
Yeah, right.
Acosta.
Yeah, hopefully they'll keep it up this time around. So
that's I played that clip I played that clip again last night because Acosta announced his retirement, in which he's like, Trump's like, "Shut up, let go of the mic."
Right. Oh yeah. Oh, I love that. But today he signed his first bill with the Lincoln-Riley Act, and a great thing. And of course he looked over to the press. He said, "We're not taking questions. Inappropriate," because they were going to start shouting questions at him. They never shout questions at Joe Biden for 4 years or Kamala, but all of a sudden they want to shout questions at him to a family that had their daughter heinously murdered, and they thought that was going to be appropriate. He shut them down right away, which was good. I think that was appropriate in that setting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the time for questions. They just had an hour and a half press conference with Carolyn Levitt yesterday. I wanted to say Caitlin, Carolyn Levitt. They had 90 minutes for that, and she's already being criticized. Left ran out to fact check her. Oh my God, she said $50 million for condoms for Gaza. That's like 1 billion condoms. Oh, it's a lie. See, you can't trust them. Well, the problem is that the people around her and the people around the president aren't very bright. And there's been 2 own goals, 2 missteps that have happened this week that have been counterproductive and unnecessary. The first was that what should have been said is there was $50 million earmarked for health issues in Gaza and included potentially, prophylaxis, which isn't the case. But anyway, that's the first thing. Second thing is that this whole thing with the foreign aid shutdown, people are losing their minds over HIV and AIDS money. And then they falsely reported, and then these organizations overseas intentionally closed their clinics and such and blamed it on the Trump administration. Well, we've been told to shut down. They were not given any such order. If you read the executive order, it says no new funding commitments, which means you can't expend additional. But if you've already got legislative money that's in there, this didn't stop it. It simply stopped adding new commitments. So this whole thing but it was a misstep because that should have been laid out. It should have been as crystal clear as when Levitt was asked a question, and Tom Homan too, asked the question. So after you get rid of all the criminals, those who commit all these crimes, are you going to go into schools? Are you going to go after other other people who are undocumented? And she said, if you enter this country illegally, you've committed a crime and you are subject to deportation. And that's what I've been saying for years. Criminal alien invader, case closed. You can sit here and play this little game. By the way, the mayor of Minneapolis has said that the police aren't going to help. So guess what? He has publicly stated that he's going to aid and abet wanted fugitives. That's a 5-year felony conviction under U.S. Code. I think it's time for the Department of Justice to issue a bench warrant for his arrest and for the Marshal Service to go to Minneapolis and put him in handcuffs. And let's see how long they want to play chicken like Gustavo Petro tried in Colombia.
He caved pretty quickly there. I love that.
I thought Trump was going to have to outfit some. Our guest is here. I'll bring her on in. But I thought Trump was going to have to outfit some containers and use a cargo plane and boot them out with self-deploying parachutes.
Yeah, something like that. In the next hour, don't let me forget, gents, we need to tell our audience about how aircraft clearances work and how a scam this was by Gustavo Petro trying to embarrass the United States. And we'll see who the punk was in the end. We'll see who got punked. But let's save that for the next hour so we can get to our guest. Todd, you got the show.
Absolutely. Folks, our guest, is, like I just said, is Joni Bryan, founder and director of 917 Project. Joni, welcome to the Common Sense Conservative right here on WSM 1590 AM and 95.3 FM, plus streaming live all around the world at wsmn.live and many other social media pages. Joni, how are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, really great. Glad that you had time to be able to come on here at such short notice. I saw that you're going to have your 4th annual fundraiser with Tucker Carlson. You want to talk about that to start off with? Then we'll get to the background of what the 917 Project is.
Okay, wonderful. Well, on March 7th, the 917 Society is welcoming Tucker Carlson to an event to help us raise funds so that we can print and distribute 2 million constitutions across the nation this year. So we're real excited about it. And we've been trying to get him for a while, and we've been working with his schedule. And it just so happened March 7th is the magic day he could come. And so we'll be in Leapers Fork. It's a private venue. And so you can go online to our website at 917society.org and you can get tickets. But it's going to be a wonderful dinner, a seated, beautiful, elegant dinner. And we'll have a VIP time with Tucker. And there also is going to be a round table for the first few rows. It's going to be tier seating, but you can see all that online. But there's actually going to be a round table where some of those participating can sit with him in a room and ask questions for a little while. And then the rest of the VIP will come in and they'll get to be with Tucker. We'll have pictures, all kinds of fun stuff. And then we'll go to the dinner and then we'll get to hear him speak. And it's just going to be an exciting night. We're real excited about it.
Absolutely. And I remember I had you on my podcast a few years ago when you kind of just started this, and it was just kind of, for lack of a better word, out of your own apartment or your own garage, really. And you've grown it.
I'm still in my house and in my garage. That hasn't changed. But,
I love it.
We're still working. I've been at it about 10 years now. And when I started the project, Obama was president. And I started it because I had never read my Constitution and I couldn't understand why, because I learned about the federal mandate. All schools, K through 12, all universities and all federal employees are supposed to have a program on the Constitution on September 17th, but it hasn't been happening. And so I thought, wow, I got to fix this, And so I was a social worker for years, and that's what I told my kids. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And I was part of the problem. Yeah. And so that's how we began. I literally was working full time. I just got divorced, working full time in downtown Nashville, and I drove Uber on the side. And so what I would do, I don't know if I've told you this story, but I would drive Uber and I kept one of those little things on the back of my car seat, with water in it and mints and stuff for my people that would ride. And I would work all day and then I'd get up sometimes, in the middle of the night, and I laugh and say, I go pick up drunks in the middle of the night and take them home. And it was funny because they'd be like, oh, I didn't know I'd come to Nashville and Dolly Parton was going to pick me up in Uber.
Yeah,
so we had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. I never knew to be afraid. I didn't think to be afraid. I was just trying to make money. And so I used some of that money to start the nonprofit, and I would buy constitutions because at that time we weren't printing them ourselves. I had no money. And so I would buy constitutions and I'd put them in the back of that little thing on the car, and I would have people from all over the country. And so I would ask questions. We'd talk about the Constitution. They'd see it. And if they weren't drunk, they would be able to, they'd ask questions. Sometimes I drove during the day too. And so great conversations. But what I learned is nobody's read it. 1 out of 100. And I literally did a survey of over 1,000 people.
Really? Wow.
And out of those 1,000 people, 10 had read it.
Wow, that's unbelievable. And I imagine there's a young fifth graders now all over the country, middle schoolers and high schoolers, because of you, that have actually read this thing. And that's a great thing that you're doing. And
it's so exciting because we've been doing, we actually got it took me several years because I was just talking, and sometimes it felt like I was talking to the wall. But in 2016, we were able to get our first distribution out to Middle Tennessee, and we got 25,000 out. So that was 2016. So last year, 2024, we had over 1 million distributed throughout all 50 states. So the schools, that's like 8 years, 7 years? So the kids are getting used to it. And so the teachers are getting used to it. And so the teachers now, the ones that order direct, they're like, are we getting them next year? And now they just know they're getting them. If they, sign up online, they're going to get them. But it's really exciting because what's happened now, I've actually had college kids come up to me and show me the Constitution they got when they were in 8th grade.
Right. I'll ask one more thing before the Colonel jumps in with some questions. You've had a number of fundraisers at Mar-a-Lago, a number of events down there. Tell me, how beautiful is Mar-a-Lago, and how is Trump in person dealing with him from your standpoint?
Well, Mar-a-Lago is beautiful. And of course, it's a venue for lots of different fundraisers. And so that's, the purpose of it down there, that area. And so the first year we were in the small ballroom. The second year we were in the big ballroom. And he's not actually been at the event, but I have to tell you a funny story. So last year we had our event there, and we had Tulsi Gabbard speaking and Larry Elder, and it was really exciting. But Trump happened to be there, and it was the night of Joe Biden's State of the Union speech.
Ooh.
And so he was off in a room tweeting, they said. But he had come out, they by the little ballroom, there's a bathroom, and he had redone it in all marble. I'm talking gorgeous. Well, the guy who did the marble, Trump was coming in to inspect it. So me and my friend Carol were in the bathroom putting on our ball gowns because I was there working, and I took my dress so I could change and get to my event at the other ballroom. Well, all of a sudden, Secret Service knocks on the door, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So we opened the door, and they said, ladies, you're going to have to come out. We came out, and there stood President Trump right there. And it was just so amazing. He looked down, and he said, oh, ladies, you look beautiful.
Oh, that's great.
And, and it was so sweet. It was such a sweet memory. But he is just very gracious. And some of our folks, as he was walking around, a lot of our folks got pictures with him and everything. So it was really cool because he's very gracious. It's a beautiful place. It's worth probably $1 billion. I mean, that place is unreal. Yeah.
Not the 10 million that judge tried to save.
No, that was the driveway cost that. I mean,
easily,
it's ridiculous, but it's beautiful, and the exquisiteness of the ballroom, of how he's restored it,
right,
architecturally, and the gold leafing, and just back to that time, it is absolutely stunning. They say he redid it for his wedding to Melania, so it was absolutely, it's just gorgeous.
Good deal. I'm going to turn it over to the Colonel. He's going to probably throw some questions at you, but nothing hard. Nothing hard, I assure you.
I'll throw it at me.
So, Jody, I wanted to ask, what's the reception been? I mean, have you run into any resistance where people are not really interested, or people when you go and you try to share the Constitution with him, like, we've been hungry for this. Thank you for doing this.
Well, here's what I have found as we've been building it. Of course, we focus on 8th grade. Because in the U.S. curriculum, 8th grade is one of the years they're supposed to have civics in depth, and that's when they're supposed to study the Constitution. So it is in the curriculum. 4th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade. And most states do that. There are a few states that do it in 7th, so we allow them to get them for 7th. Whichever grade the state focuses on, we focus on that one grade. And so the hardest thing we have is to get through the filters of the schools, because we actually actively pursue the schools to let them know about the mandate and know about the free program. Because here's the thing, nobody knows about it. And our biggest challenge has been censorship. And even right now, I'm shadow banned on Facebook. Mm-hmm. On my own page, I post things and I can't even see it myself. And so it's very frustrating. So getting the word out, because in 2020, things started to get really strange. And we were going to do a promotion, donate $25 for a classroom. And we were hoping we could get maybe 10,000 people across the country to jump in, small donations to help us meet our budget, because nobody, we're a small grassroots organization. Nobody gets a salary. The bulk of everything goes for printing and distribution. And so it was very frustrating because I couldn't get the word out. I couldn't get the message out. And for 90 days at the time, Facebook, which is where we had built our following, Facebook, every day we'd put a sponsored ad out, because it was inexpensive and we didn't have a lot of money. And so we'd put a little sponsored ad out and it would come down. And so we would call them at the time. They had a marketing department we would call, and they said, oh, the ad's fine. Pull it back down as soon as it went back up. Mm-hmm. And we went through that for 90 days. We could not get any traction whatsoever. You talk about frustrated. And then, of course, we have since learned that Mark Zuckerberg gave $400 million to the Democratic Party and to stifle conservative views. And for some reason, they consider the Constitution a conservative view. And that's very frustrating for me, because I grew up a blue dog Democrat. I grew up in the South. And so it's not a right or left issue. It's an American issue. And so that really was upsetting to me, because literally the far left, the progressive far left, has hijacked the Democratic Party. And that's what we saw in this last election. They have hijacked it to the point that it's not recognizable. And so many Democrats, libertarians, independents switched over and voted for President Trump because of that very thing. I mean, if you were pro-American, if you were pro-Constitution, you pro-Bill of Rights, you were labeled as a right-wing, nut job, conservative, conspiracy theory. You were getting all these crazy labels just for promoting the Constitution.
Well, the irony, of course, is that our Constitution is a classically liberal document of free speech, freedom of worship, free religion. These are classical liberal ideals in the genuine sense of liberal, not in the leftist lunacy we see today. That's the irony. But Joni, I have to explain to you, having been a target of the censorship regime that was fostered by the National Institutes of Health, the Centers for Disease Control, the White House, Chief of Staff, the office, the Biden regime, all these people who wound up causing me grievous harm on social media. I can tell you that the problem that you don't understand is that you have to understand that drag queen story time takes precedence over telling people about the Constitution.
Well, absolutely. And also you have to look at the fact the National Archives labeled the Constitution racist and hate speech. You saw that.
I did not see that.
Yes, that was about a year and a half, 2 years ago. It came out. The National Archives labeled it, put a warning label on the Constitution that it was hate speech.
Well,
oh yeah, you can look it up. It's out there.
I like and then my friend Smith and Wesson.
Yeah, and then just a few months ago, the New York Times, their big article was, the Constitution is sacred, but is it dangerous?
Well, yeah. the dingy gray lady of the New York Times is what's dangerous here. They wouldn't know the truth that hit them in the face. I call them out so often. But congratulations on the work that you're doing. It's really appreciated. And I want to ask you a question about the 10 out of the 1,000 that actually read the Constitution. We would like to hope that those 10 were veterans or serving military members, but I bet you most of the veterans and military people don't even know the Constitution. That's been my experience.
Most of us don't. And, this law goes back to the 50s. It used to be Citizenship Day. And in the 60s, they did, honor it. But then in the 70s, when prayer was taken out of school, everything started shifting. And I remember when I was little saying the pledge. But then by the time I was in high school and college, they had taken prayer out of school, the pledge out of the school, and we all sat, I don't know. I never heard anything, but I don't remember my parents even mentioning it. I don't remember a big outcry, for that. And so I think we just got complacent and just slowly, everything about our Constitution, government, that's just kind of been watered down. And the frustrating thing, to me is, the Constitution is the thing that gives us our freedoms, our liberties. Of course, God gives them to us, but the Constitution guarantees it. And I think that's also something that what I have learned with our young people, they believe the government gives them their rights.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And they also believe the government has money.
No, so they have my money. Give it back.
Yeah, teaching them that it's your tax money that funds the government. And our God gives us our rights, and the Constitution just guarantees those rights. And so, we have wonderful conversations about free speech and all these different things. But most of the people, when I did my survey, most of the people that read the Constitution were usually lawyers that had it in law school. That was usually the ones who had some knowledge of it. But I have started, we have a place on our website where you can also order constitutions for groups. Like if you want to go to a civic group, or, if you want to do a community fair or whatever, you can order constitutions from us at cost. It's just like a donation to us. And that way we can replenish them for the kids. But we've had such an outcry for adults needing and wanting these, because what we've learned is when the kids go home from school, I'll have to tell you a story. An older sibling, this happened in Wilson County. A parent stood up and said, "Thank you guys for doing this. My son was in 8th grade and I had a 12th grader. And she said, my 8th grader got this and brought it home. And my 12th grader, we were very concerned about his views and where he was headed. And he got that Constitution from his little brother, started reading it, got so inspired, get this, when he went to college, he started a Turning Point chapter.
Turning Point USA. Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. You know, what shocks me, and you've obviously got plenty of these stories. What has shocked me is the wholesale ignorance of Americans about the Constitution. It's the most important document, perhaps other than the Bible, that's ever been drafted, in my view.
Absolutely. I would say the exact same thing. The Bible inspired the Constitution.
Exactly,
You can
100%.
in fact, there are almost some verses verbatim, and yet people want to say, oh, the Bible had nothing to do with it, and our founders were, they were deists, and they were atheists, and they were this. No. If you read the letters of our founders, faith was paramount. I mean, they had faith. And when you know the story about George Washington, I tell that story about how George Washington, when he was inaugurated on September 30th of 1789, he took his whole administration. They were in New York at the time, was the capital. They walked to St. Paul's Chapel, and he got on his knees and dedicated America to God. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's out there. You can find it in history.
Oh yeah.
Well, when 9/11 hit, that little chapel was at Trinity Church, and it was in the shadow of the towers.
It survived.
And it survived.
Everything around
Not
it down.
even a broken window.
Yep,
and I believe it was the providence of God. I believe it was because we dedicated this country to God, and we've got to get back to that. Because our rights are God-given rights. It says it clearly in here. And so, that's not saying one particular religion. There are lots of different religions and different denominations and those things out there, but we cannot deny our faith is a part of. That's what makes this country so amazing, is the fact that it was forged in faith.
Well, two things, Joni. First one, and then I'll get the second point. The first one is, are you sure about that? And the founders being men of faith? Because I have it on no less an authority than the Broadway play Hamilton, that Alexander Hamilton was a gay black man. I'm just, I don't know if you heard that.
I know.
Yeah,
they love to, reinvent history, and that's what
they do.
I know I was very upset because after I was going through all that censorship in 2020, the summer, then when President Biden took office, that very day, and a lot of y'all may not have remembered this, but he did his executive orders canceling all the things Trump had done. But the 1776 commission Trump had put in place to really encourage patriotic education.
Yeah, Victor Davis Hanson was part of that.
Yep.
And he canceled it. And so they put the 1619 project in. Of course, now that's been debunked because the 1619 project, a lot of that stuff was fabricated, or it was not as they said it was. And so now you don't hear anything about that anymore. Well,
the 1619 project was debunked when it first made its appearance in the New York Times, but I was censored. And so people didn't get to hear the truth.
I know. I mean, and this is what makes me angry, because our voice, God spoke and the world began. Our voice is precious.
Yep. Very powerful.
Precious. And for someone to tell you, you can't speak, that goes against everything this country was founded upon. And that, you may not agree with me and you may not like a thing I say, but that's okay. You got a right to say it. I got a right not to listen to it, but I can't stop you from saying it, and I shouldn't, and I won't. But that's what really upsets me is people, when that cancel culture started and people thought, well, I can stop you from speaking. No. Even if you don't agree, that's okay. We need to have civil debate. That's how our founders, our Constitutional Convention, they were in there, they were going back and forth and they were arguing, and but they were sharing ideas, and from all that came this country. And to think that they want to stop that now, that was very upsetting to me. Very upsetting to me.
I can understand 100%. The problem is Americans don't understand. You touched on it a while ago, and I was going to get back into this, is that, and this frustrates me to no end, because we had some people misbehaving in our veterans organization, the canteen, and because of their comments denigrating veterans and the officers of the organization and in the organization, we took disciplinary action and said that, this is our private club. We're not going to let you in here if you're going to put things on Facebook that are disrespectful to the people that are here. And they come in and they start crying about their First Amendment right. And I said, you have no First Amendment right. The Constitution protects you against the government impinging on your God-given natural rights. You don't have a God-given natural right to join a private organization and tell us which way to go. It's a privilege to be here. And we don't want you in here if you're going to behave that way. And this is what's lost. I hear this all the time. What about my freedom of speech? You don't have freedom of speech. And if you think speech is universally free, it's not. Go to a crowded theater and yell fire. You'll be prosecuted because you've endangered the public.
Right.
So
right. Consequence, speech has consequences, and you have to understand that. And so you're very correct in that, because, with Facebook and all these companies, technically there's nothing you can do. They're private companies.
Well,
so they can't censor. But here's the thing.
But
the government was giving them protections against
That's
lawsuits.
correct. Section 230 of the 1996 Telecommunications
They were
Act.
acting as a publisher, not as a platform.
That's correct. And that's why. So they violated the terms and conditions of the 1996 Telecommunications Act, and they violated the law by becoming a publisher, by the editing our content. If we put up things that advocated for violence against a group of people, they have a legal responsibility to remove that. That's not editorial. That's complying with the law. But when they censor me because I put a video up of a woman going to a hospital in the United Kingdom, walk around going, I was told I couldn't have an appointment because the place is full of COVID patients. There's nobody here. And my channel was removed over that.
Yeah, and that's just wrong. And and then when we found that Zuckerberg gave $400 million, to the Democratic Party to stifle, to use for social media to stifle conservative speech. And then we found out that the government was actually communicating with them, telling them that's wrong. It clearly states that our government cannot make any laws and cannot interfere. We're free to speak, but we also, as good citizens, I tell people, our whole thing of self-governance is you got to be able to govern yourself.
Bingo. Exactly.
And be a good citizen. And so it's a two-way street, and so that's so important. But our government can't come in. And that's where it got really bad these last 4 years, is our government was colluding, saying they weren't, but yet we found the emails, we learned they were. And so that was unconstitutional.
Oh, indeed it was. And I've been making this point forever. The government C-cube, cajoled, coerced, or collaborated with tech giants to silence speech. By doing that, they turned Twitter and other platforms into agents of the federal government, and thereby they committed felony acts by violating our First Amendment. The Congress should make no law abridging their freedom of speech. Nobody's been prosecuted for that yet. The Department of Justice needs to get busy. As soon as they go out and issue the warrant for the mayor of Minneapolis, who today suggested that stated unequivocally that he would give aid and comfort to criminal alien invaders, thereby violating U.S. code. It's a 5-year felony conviction. It's time for the Department of Justice to start getting busy. I know that Pam Bondi's not sworn in yet, but she will be by Tuesday next week. So as soon as she gets there, it's time to start issuing these warrants. Joni, what's the spread of what you're doing? Is it regional? Is it national? Are people in Tennessee?
We started in Middle Tennessee, and then as we started doing it, we had other people in other states want it. And so we just, I think third year we gave out about 100,000 in 3 states, and then it went to 16. Now in the last 3 years, we've been covering all 50 states, and we love working with different community groups because we still, a lot of people still don't know about the mandate. And so we need help in the communities, for volunteers. They can volunteer. They can go online to our website, and it says become a volunteer. And in your community, when Constitution Day gets ready to roll around, you can volunteer to get these to the school if they haven't ordered them direct from us, because we need volunteers that will call the school and say, hey, there's a mandate. We've got some wonderful constitutions free for your kids if you'd like to have them. All I need to know is, how many kids. And of course, we have a database already built with that, but we share that. And we share that with our volunteers, and then they can it has all the information, the school, how many students, the phone call, the number, the principal, and then they can just kind of follow up, because by being in that community and building a relationship with either the principal or the teachers, that's a lot better than me in Nashville trying to reach somebody, in Arkansas or Alaska.
Right.
And so we're building, and we've got lots of different groups. AMVETS has been amazing. The AMVET organization in Tennessee, they delivered to 20 counties, and then we had them all across the nation, and we're working to do more with AMVETS this year to get them to the kids. We worked with Moms for Liberty. We worked with all kinds of Civitan, Rotary clubs. We work with women's club, men's clubs, community clubs. It doesn't matter, The only thing we ask is that you love the country and you love the Constitution. Because if you don't need to be volunteering, But that's all we ask.
You could always move to Canada, where they violate the Basic Charter of Rights by Justin Trudeau.
Absolutely. But that's all we ask, that those two things. And so there is a place where you can volunteer. There's a place where you can order constitutions if you want to give them out in your community. And then there's also a place to order for schools. And so, there's just lots going on right now, but it's an exciting time. I'll be honest with you, after we had our event September 17th and we gave out our constitutions, I had to sit down because, it was getting really rough politically with all the back and forth. And, I thought, well, what's going to happen when the new administration comes? If it goes one way, I really was worried because I was really concerned, where we would be able to go with it, just because of all the things that happened the last time with, the 1776 commission shut down and all these different things. So I feel hopeful that we're going to get back to honoring and celebrating our Constitution, to being proud to be an American, to teaching our kids that they are victors, not victims, that they're equal. Because that's been a big thing that's really been frustrating for me, is talking to young people and they think there's not equality in this country. It's like there's people trying to pretend we're still back in 1954 and it's 2024 and we are a mixed nation. Almost every person that there's somebody in their family that's married to somebody who is of a different race, or there's a gender or sex or whatever. Who cares? We're equal. And that's the most important thing. And by all this identity politics, we're Americans. And we shouldn't be calling each other a Black American or a white American, or a gay American or a straight American. We're Americans. We don't need those adjectives.
Right.
We have equality. So let's get past all this and let's just be Americans, respect each other. That's all we should do. Leave the kids alone, because they're under 18. Let them get to where they're adults and then they can make their own decisions. That's all we want. And then go pursue your happiness,
there you go.
But respect others pursuing theirs, and that's really important, because that's the self-governance. That's you're a good citizen, you're a good neighbor, and you respect everyone else and their choices, as long as they're not breaking the law or doing something, they shouldn't be doing illegal, then, they can go live their life and you can live yours. We have equality. And that's been the hardest thing for me to deal with, is all this special, people think they're supposed to have special treatment because they're a special group.
No, I'm sorry.
Well, we fostered that in society. In the 1980s, we had this movement for an equal rights amendment. Why do we need an equal rights amendment? All men are created equal. We're all equal. There's no special rights for women. They're given privileges. They're the same as men. They're the same as everyone else. So the Equal Rights Amendment is a good example of that. They've been trying to get that in, and Biden played his little game where he said that it's now in effect. Well, it's dead letter. It died in the 1980s. It had plenty of extensions. But the point is exactly that. So your copies of the Constitution, are they exclusive to the Constitution, or do you include the Declaration of Independence and maybe the Articles of Confederation?
Well, we have in our Constitution, this is a copy of one, and we have a place where the teacher signs and dates it. We want to make it special for the kids. We want them to remember it. We want to make it a tangible thing for them. And we want to create a sense of ownership, because when you hold something in your hand, it's yours. And when I was asked the question about when I'd read my Constitution and he handed me a Constitution, the man that asked me that question, I had never held one. And I always kind of, in my mind, I just thought of it as this dusty old document in Washington. But when I held it in my hand and I opened it and started reading the words, it developed for me a sense of ownership. Oh, this is my Constitution.
Yep.
And not just the Constitution. And so then we have the Declaration in it. We have the Constitution, all the amendments, the signers. And then on the last page, we have the oath of citizenship. So the kids, if they want to, the teacher wants to, they do the oath of citizenship so they can read what someone who comes over here to become a citizen, what they pledge. Because, if we're born here, we didn't take an oath.
Right.
And so we want our kids to understand. And, and that's why we love having our veterans working with us, because we want our kids to understand what our veterans, they took an oath to defend this with their life. And so a lot of the veterans do programs in the schools. We've had that happen a lot, and that's been really exciting because a lot of the schools will allow the veterans to come and do a program and give out the constitutions.
So, Joni, Todd and I both, of course, served in uniform and completed years. Between the two of us, we got almost we got over half a century military service between the two of us. Yeah, I got 36. He's got over 20 years in uniform. And both of us, I know, took our oath of office and our pledge to the Constitution quite seriously. And that's why it was important to us. There are people, most people serve in uniform. It's a career, it's a vocation for them. Maybe they want money for college, something like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I know that I'm pretty sure Todd's a person that one of the reasons we stayed in uniform was because we so firmly believe in that Constitution and the privileges that it protects us with. But I want to ask you this question. It's because it's so important to me that I'm an archivist, I'm a researcher, genealogist, and I've been to the National Archives in DC. And one of the purposes for going was to see that dusty old document in the glass, and also the Magna Carta, because we have one of the few original copies of the Magna Carta at the archives. That's just that important to me. But by your own admission, you didn't know the Constitution. I want to ask you this question, not to put you on the spot, but I think it's fair because you're honest here. Were you embarrassed that you knew so little about our Constitution when you finally woke up to it? And was there like an epiphany, like I should have known this all along?
That's why I started the organization, because I was so embarrassed. That I have an education, my degree's in biology and chemistry, have a minor in psychology. So I kept that question, when is the last time you read your Constitution, was the exact question. And when he said that to me, it was like an epiphany. It was like, oh, I've never read it. And then all I could remember was in 8th grade, Mrs. Alexander's class, having a test on the Bill of Rights and just, a few of the things there. And that's it. I didn't have it in high school, didn't have it in college. And I was like, wow, if maybe it's just me. So that set me on a quest.
It's not just you. That's the problem.
That set me on a quest to think, well, maybe it's just me. Maybe I just missed out, And then when I started talking to everybody and learning about the mandate, I thought, I never heard of Constitution Day. And then I started asking teachers, and I started asking all kinds of people, from every walk of life, and nobody's read it. Nobody knows about the mandate. Nobody heard of Constitution Day. September 17th, 1787 is when our Constitution was signed into law. Nobody knows that date. You may, but most people, don't know that date. I thought, why? And so that's why I started it, because I was totally humiliated that I have an education and I have never read the Constitution. And it also, something really important happened when I started reading it for myself. I realized how far away from
we had gotten from it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's exactly right. So before we got to get John in here real quick, I think, Todd, because I've been hogging all the time. But
I'm trying to get in.
Yeah, I know. But before we do, I think, Joni, we need a revival of Schoolhouse Rock, because I'm just a bill sitting on Capitol Hill. I mean, that's how we learned that stuff. And
that is how we learned.
Conjunction Junction. What's your function?
I'm doing my Trump dance. I'm doing my Trump dance now. Sorry.
Yeah. So let's get John get in here.
We have an Abraham Lincoln impersonator that is just amazing, and he'll be at our event.
That's awesome, Joni. That for the last 4 years, we had someone impersonating the President of the United States, so that works out well.
Yeah, I can probably agree with that one. But so we're working on some videos. We already have on top of the constitutions, we have on our website a resource page, and we try to look out all over the internet and find free resources for our teachers. So all they got to do is click on there, and they can have lesson plans, games, videos. They can quizzes. they can pull things out that they want to use and then we have a classroom contest. So at the end of the year, they can send in pictures and videos of what they did for Constitution Day. And then we award $200 gift cards to the classroom to spend. And that's been really a lot of fun. And it gets the kids excited. And it's just been so wonderful to see the pictures of the kids. They'll dress up, or they'll, have a mock constitutional convention, just so much fun stuff. And it's just been so rewarding, to see our kids get excited and to have kids come up and say they were inspired, or to have kids in college or in high school come back and say, look, I got one of these, I still have it. I carry it with me all the time, and we've started donating. We've had several police departments that do training, and their trainees have not had the Constitution, a lot of them. And so they're using some of our constitutions. They'll order them, they'll get them from our website, and they'll order them and, give them to the training classes so that their actual policemen have one on them, to carry with them. Absolutely. And so that's pretty exciting. It's really exciting. So it's been really rewarding. And yes, but I did have that moment, that epiphany, and that's why I did this, because I didn't want to be part of the problem anymore. I wanted to be part of the solution.
There you go. John, you want to jump in with some questions? Sorry about that.
Yeah, first things first, there is nothing for anybody to be embarrassed about if you don't know. I got to tell you, there was a time I didn't know the Constitution myself. And the way I found it was being a truck driver. I found one laying, somebody like yourself, they had little constitutions and they laid them out in the trucker's lounge. And I picked one up and looked, I go, hey, this is kind of cool. And so I started reading it, and I was very thankful to have found it because it got me on the right track. So I just thought I'd put that out there and Chris wasn't trying to put anybody on the spot, obviously, but for the sake of those listening, don't be embarrassed, but get involved because it's really an interesting document and you want to see it.
Absolutely.
And another thing is going back to that dusty old document down there in DC, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence lie side by side. But the shame of the matter is the ink is disappearing. It's very, very difficult to read, and it's almost scary to think the original documents are fading like they are.
I know.
But fortunately, we got folks like yourself printing them up, so that's pretty awesome. So what I would like to know is on your website, for those who can't get a pocket constitution like you put out there for the children and stuff, but they're interested, do you have the Constitution on your website where they can read it off your website?
There's two ways you can get it. One, you can get it free on our website. When you click on 917society.org, you'll see ebook. Download that ebook on your phone, and you've got the Constitution right there. You've got the same thing that this is right here. You got the Declaration, the Constitution, the amendments. You've got the oath of citizenship. You got all of that on your phone. But if you will sign up for our newsletter, we will send you a free pocket Constitution. All you gotta do is sign up. Doesn't cost you a thing. Just go on there, sign up for our newsletter. And we do about 2 or 3 a month, and we don't share your information with anybody. So it's totally private, but we will send you updates of our work. And you can get involved, or you can just keep up with us. You can donate, whatever you're able to do, to help us carry our mission on. We'd love for you to do that.
I was going to just ask you about donations. I'm sure you have a donation site there, so you covered that one. Sometimes the Constitution is a little bit difficult to understand for people. For instance, I always thought that the Bill of Rights applied to all states in accordance to the Supremacy Clause. And I assume that the Supremacy Clause stating what it states, that the Constitution, statutory law, and treaties are the supreme law of the land, that the Bill of Rights fall into there, and all states must follow the Bill of Rights. But then I'm watching this educational video, and this guy saying, but the Bill of Rights didn't apply to states until the 14th Amendment, when it specifically said it applied to the states. So I'm kind of curious, do you have educational videos to give kind of details or anything in that regard where people can learn?
We have on our website, we do have some videos. We have a Bill of Rights, all, the 1 through 10, your first 10 amendments is your Bill of Rights. And a lot of people don't know that. They'll say Bill of Rights, and it's a separate document, but it is the first 10 amendments, that the founders, thought was so important that they had. So it was put in later, but it was amended. And so that's the Bill of Rights. And so we do have some videos on there. We have anything that's free out there that people, we have found. We have things from Hillsdale. We have guy that does a bunch of quizzes, for classrooms. He let us put that on there. We had a Constitution camp with Dr. Carol Swain. We worked with her. She's one of our 917 Society people. And she has
great
a
lady.
project called Be the People. And so we joined our nonprofits together and did a Constitution camp. We had 76 kids, and Pete Hegseth, he came and spoke, and his kids were in the camp, and that was so much fun. So you can see that on the website. About when you go to events, you can see about Constitution Camp, and we're going to be doing more this summer. So we're doing a lot of fun stuff there. But it's we do have all kinds of things. Lesson plans. If a teacher needs a lesson plan, there's lesson plans on there. Videos, they can use any of the videos. It's all free. And so what we do is when we send these constitutions out, we have cards in their boxes that tell them about the free resources online and also about the classroom contest for them to enter. And then we also have a scholarship program that we've just started. So we'll be giving out our first scholarships this May.
Wow. How can people apply for this scholarship if you have time to talk about that?
Well, right now we're going to contain it to just a few counties because it's small.
Okay.
But we're going to be building it. And so we'll have that online soon where you can go on there and they can apply. And if they're in Tennessee and Middle Tennessee, they'll be able to do that. And eventually we're going to have it, we hope to get more funds in it. And my mom and dad passed away. And
I'm sorry.
Instead of I said, instead of people sending money to us or anything, let's start a scholarship fund. So people donated to that fund. So it was named Mom and Dad because they love this country. They love the Constitution. They loved everything that America stands for. So I wanted to do something in their honor. So it's going to be exciting to give the first scholarships in their name.
Amen. And you might get a cool coffee mug like this right here. One of my favorite, my favorite coffee mug, by the way, Joni. Thank you.
Wonderful.
So any final thoughts? I think we got just a couple minutes here. Any final questions that the Colonel may have or John before we hit the break here at the top of the hour?
Well, Joni, I'm curious, what's your biggest challenge? It doesn't sound like enthusiasm. It sounds like you're getting donations. Is it actually putting it all together? It's got to be labor intensive, or do you have it all? You take orders, put them together, and they get shipped from the publisher. How's it work?
Well, what we do is we work all year to raise the money. And so this is going to be the ending of our fundraiser for 2025. We got to raise enough money to bulk print. So we're going to try to print 2 million constitutions. So that's pretty expensive. And then what we do is we've got a local printer. We print them here in Nashville, and we don't go to China, just so you know. We print them here in Nashville. And so we have a wonderful printer. He's fantastic. And so what we do is then we have volunteers sign up all across the country on our website. And Martha Leary is our database manager. She's retired. She does this because she loves it. I have a website manager, a newsletter manager, Marie, and she's retired and she does this free, And so our biggest challenges are we're getting so big. We need more funding because we need help. Because right before our Constitution Day event on September 17th, the day before, I was hauling boxes to the post office. I've got a van that was donated to us. And so in August, once we get everything printed, then in July and August, we meet in the warehouse and we package things. Some schools get just the box and we just have to label them, but some we have to break them down into, like if a school gets 200, our boxes come in boxes of 400. So we have to break them down. And so we have a group of volunteers that come in and we all get this done and we go to the post office and we get these things shipped out. So we need a warehouse, we need an office. I mean, I'm in my kitchen right now, and so I've got a garage out here that's got pallets of constitutions, and we had so many that we've got some at the printer. He's so gracious to store them for us. So yeah, it's just, funding is the biggest thing because we don't take state or federal money. We look at taxpayer money should not be going to a 501c3 or an NGO.
Amen. Amen. We agree on that one. And I love what you've done here. This is an unbelievable organization. I caught wind of just a few years ago as you were in your ascendancy, and you're still growing. But folks, we'll be back after the break. Joni, I apologize. We hit our hard break, but we'll get you on a show at another time. Love you. Thank you very much for being here. We'll be back at the top of the hour, folks. Stand by.
Thank you.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Richard Cantu. No change in the cost of money. The Federal Reserve, nation's central bank, leaving its benchmark interest rate right where it is now.
Notably, one change in what the Fed releases its statement when it looks at kind of the big picture of the economy is that it says inflation remains somewhat elevated. So a little bit of a nod there to the reality that the Fed is saying our main priority over the past 2.5 years, 3 years, has been bringing inflation down. They say they've made remarkable progress, but some of that progress has stalled a little bit.
ABC's Elizabeth Schulze. A federal judge in New York City sentenced disgraced former New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez to 11 years in the penitentiary on corruption-related charges. The White House Budget Office rescinded the directive suspending all federal grants and loans, but a federal judge indicates he will issue a temporary restraining order barring the administration plan. This is ABC News. President Trump's pick for health secretary got his confirmation hearing on Wednesday.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. repeatedly insisted he's not against vaccines.
I support the measles vaccine. I support the polio vaccine.
But the Finance Committee's Democrats, led by Oregon's Ron Wyden, were not convinced.
Anybody who believes that ought to look at the measles book you wrote saying parents have been misled into believing that measles is a deadly disease. That's not true.
The hearing featured repeated interruptions from protesters, but the room was also filled with several Kennedy supporters. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
Change is coming to the U.S. Open. The U.S. Tennis Association says the tournament is expanding to 15 days this year, starting on a Sunday for the first time in the Open era that began in 1968. The Australian Open went to 15 days this year. The French Open was the first to expand to 15 days back in 2006. The U.S. Open to start August 24th. I'm Richard Cantu, ABC News.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
Attention campers, don't get stuck with markups. Other dealers increase freight and prep fees up to 300%. At Campers Inn RV, we never mark up fees. Our mission is to help you camp at a price you can afford, like a travel trailer with bunks, a full bath and a refrigerator for just $13,999. Shop smart and save big at Campers Inn RV. Visit campersinn.com or your nearest Campers Inn RV today. Campers Inn RV, where integrity drives every deal.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger.
All right. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. We cut the commercial short. Don't know what happened there, but we appreciate our guest in the first hour, Joni Bryan with the 917 Society. Joined back with my co-host, Colonel Chris White, who I accidentally called guest host at the top of the last hour. And Colonel Chris White there in Central PA, and of course John Grosvenor holding down the studio in Nashua, New Hampshire. Great host, great questions there at the first of the hour. We got caught short with the hard break there, but that's all right. We'll have her back on at some point very soon. But very I mean, a lot of energy there. Go ahead, John.
I'd like to jump in and just because for terrestrial listeners, people out there that can't see the screen, I've been using the ticker on the screen for her website. But if you're interested, and we hope you are, her website is 917society.org. So that's 917society.org. If you want to write that down and visit the website, it's really, really nice. And if you have any hankering for learning about the U.S. Constitution, that's a great place to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great website. It's come along a long ways, but let's get into, the Trump administration. We're in the first or the first 100 days of the second administration. Just very few people have been confirmed. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, and just a couple of others. Anyway, I know the Colonel probably wants to jump in on some things. Where should we start at? Should we start at defense or should we start somewhere else?
Well, let's start with defense because we got a whole passel of things. Pete Hegseth confirmed, but it took the vice president's tiebreaker vote because Mitch McConnell, being the scumbag that he is, voted against the president's nominee and making it a 50-50 vote with the fake Republicans and Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, who are reliably leftists and everything. So it was 50-50. Pete Hegseth was confirmed, despite the slander, the lies, misrepresentations, and the shameful behavior of members of the Senate during the confirmation. That said, let's move on to the most interesting topic of the day for defense. General Milley is in deep kimchi. General Milley is in deep trouble here. The Secretary of Defense has referred him to the Inspector General for possible demotion in rank and also to charge him under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which, by the way, is not double jeopardy because he's never been tried in civilian court. I don't know if his pardon applies to UCMJ. I believe it does, but he can certainly be demoted and punished for his actions.
Yeah.
And so they're going after him. He's been stripped of a security clearance. He's been stripped of a security detail. And now he's just another citizen getting a retirement check for the moment. Can you believe that? They took his photo down. Now they're about to take down his picture from when he was Army Chief of Staff in the Army wing of the Pentagon.
Well, absolutely. If he's actually convicted of, say, treason, take his picture down everywhere. I mean, because talking to his Chinese counterpart, as he freely admitted on the record in front of God and country and the entire, mainstream news and, of course, everybody else that was watching, said he admitted that he talked to his counterpart there in China, which is completely, a violation not only of Uniform Code of Military Justice, but any number of laws, rules, and regulations that governs his conduct as a chairman of the Joint Chiefs or Army Chief of Staff, etc. I mean, come on now. You can't just go unilaterally and talk to your counterpart and say, oh, don't worry about it. We're not going to listen to the commander-in-chief. Just listen to what I have to say. I don't think so. You don't have that authority. I don't care how many stars you have, 4, 5, 10, or 20. It doesn't matter. Commander-in-chief trumps you, no pun intended, and also pun intended, all day long.
Yeah, and these leftists that wind up in uniform need to get over themselves. I don't know how someone rises to 4-star general rank and is such a complete ASS. I mean, that's just it's unbelievable. I mean, this clown apologized for wearing his duty uniform walking through the streets of D.C. Well, your duty uniform at the Pentagon is fatigues. So what's your problem with that? Don't be ashamed of it. You're a soldier. Unless you're doing some inappropriate behavior, you weren't. The commander-in-chief asked you to walk the streets with him to survey the situation because they might be pulling out the National Guard. And by the way, when they tried the fake insurrection nonsense, did they forget the image of Milley apologizing for walking out days before that in his fatigues? Oh, it was inappropriate to me. Well, why were you out there? Because the president was trying to coordinate for National Guard deployment. So that sort of undermines the whole argument right there. It's just, look, Milley is a disgrace. He is. General Milley is an absolute disgrace, and it's so disappointing to see his behavior the past 4 years. I lost hope in the military. I didn't want to leave the Army, but you know how it is. You age out, you max, and at 30 years, and there's no general officer position in my career field, so I can't become a general, so I can't stay longer. And so I didn't want to leave, but in the immediate aftermath is when the COVID scam started, and I'm so glad that I did retire when I did. I left without any baggage, without any complaints, without it being pushed out for not getting experimental jabs, all that stuff. And I'm glad that my retirement date came when it did. But they have so tarnished our nation's military and undermine it to such a level. And it's people like this in Vindman. Who is Vindman to think that his judgment supersedes the president of the United States because he doesn't like it? But the problem, ladies and gentlemen, and what you all have to understand is that this attitude is pervasive throughout the federal government. In every branch, in every department, everywhere you go, you have these people who actively betray the president of the United States and the country. It doesn't matter what your personal opinion is. Do you honestly think that I wanted to execute most of the things I was forced to do when Obama was president? The guy couldn't fight his way out of a wet paper bag when it came to foreign policy and got military people and probably 1 million civilians in the Middle East killed because of his stupidity, his arrogance, and his naivete. But there were lawful orders. So my only option is resign. But I can do more good on the inside, and I won't fight against the system because it's lawful. These people stay and then fight the system and break the law. And I'll tell you what, we had an inspector general who had to be escorted out of a building, I think it was today. Good. Next time, if they don't leave, call security and have put in handcuffs. That's how it goes. Get over yourselves. You're not more important than the country.
Trump said he was going to end corruption in his first term, and he
Well, that didn't happen.
He was greatly undermined for the reasons you just stated. You know, he had the wrong people in the wrong places that were undermining him. So you see him being more aggressive now this time around. He is weeding people out. He's done. He's not going to be putting up with this nonsense anymore. And these last few days are evidence of that.
Well, I think that In Living Color told us how that was back in the day. Homie, don't play that.
No,
Homie's done.
Hits him with a bunch of socks. I love that.
I'm telling you, that's right. Remember that?
Great show.
Homie, don't play that. Yeah, no, that was. It's look. I mean, Trump is moving with a purpose. I mean, you know, he's putting 18-year-olds to shame with his endurance and his longevity. And I got to tell you that I every day I just can't wait to see what the next. I thought it was going to slow down after a week. No. Now we're repurposing Guantanamo. But you should see the left. I was on Twitter. When we were on the news break, and I flipped through Twitter. Oh, they're belting down this lunatic leftist Joe who has an account on Twitter. For some reason, comes up my feed even though I never pay attention to her. And she's like, "Did he just say they're going to do a detention camp at Guantanamo?" He sure did, sweetheart. Would you like a ticket?
Yeah, would you like a ticket? I love it. So Lee Zeldin is confirmed as the EPA. So that's good. And of course,
Marco Rubio last week, first one.
Yeah, Tom Tillis, who held up Pete Hegseth's nomination, has advanced Kash Patel's nomination. So that's a good thing.
That's going to go through no problem. Kash Patel will probably get a couple Democrats. I think it's possible.
I think so. I mean, the guy's very smart, intelligent, and I was looking at his background, his resume, and all the things he's done. I mean, he's kind of self-made in a lot of ways. I mean, he's went out and done all this stuff and achieved in life, not being inside the political circles. And now, of course, he rose to such a level, had such success that now he's inside the political circles because he's earned his way in, not just had his mommy or daddy get him in like some people do in politics, at least in the past. Trump administration, they don't really do stuff like that. He goes out and looks for a lot of talent and a lot of young people within the administration, for sure. He don't look for the old hands to come back to D.C. to try to take up a position as a secretary or this and that. He goes out and looks and recruits people, and I think that's refreshing to see in our nation.
Well, I found it comical. The left was saying he's not qualified to be the director of the FBI.
Yes, he is.
Because he was an attorney. I'm sorry, what was Robert Mueller?
Yeah.
He was an attorney. Yeah, but apparently he was okay to be the director of FBI.
Well, it's always the moving goalpost. It's like, oh, because he was an attorney. Oh, well, you weren't an attorney. It's always something else, Whenever I ran for the school board here locally, the opponent who was the incumbent at the time, he had been a teacher, an administrator, and of course had been deputy director of the school system nearby. And basically they said, well, Todd's not qualified because he's never been a teacher. He's never worked in education. I said, I think that gives me a fresh perspective, not being inside the system.
In fact, you're in many ways more eminently qualified than the people who are already in the system. You need a diverse, not from appearance, but from experience and background group of people on a school board so that you get varied opinions and not just groupthink. Just getting a bunch of teachers is why we've got children being taught how to perform fellatio at the age of 5 in primary schools, because we have that nonsense.
Yeah, not knowing, even about their own self, their own body, or anything like that. And here you are, you're sitting there throwing stuff at them that they're kind of shocked of. They don't even know what certain words are. And now here you are, you're saying, hey, if you want to, you can put a male organ in your mouth, and it'll feel good for them, and they can do this and that. That's completely inappropriate, for crying out loud. You want to teach sex ed, teach it in high school, but teach it in an appropriate manner.
Health perspective.
Health perspective. Thank you.
Puberty is awkward, right? And it's bad enough all by itself without adults engaging with these children about what they should be doing with their bodies and what kind of sexual acts they should be doing. Here, kid, here's a book that will describe everything in detail. They don't need that crap.
No.
Nature will find itself. Kids will discover their own. They don't need any help or influence from grown-ups. That's sick and disgusting on grown-ups' parts.
To quote Jurassic Park, nature will find a way, right?
Yeah, it always does. It's like commerce. Commerce always finds a way. Even the Chinese communists couldn't stop commerce. Private commerce flourished despite the crackdowns. So, all right, the defense then. Hegseth is confirmed.
Yes,
We've got Guantanamo Bay being set up for 30,000 criminal alien invaders.
Yeah.
We've got Mark Milley stripped of a security detail.
Thank you.
And now being referred for potential action to strip him of a star. And then on top of that, we've got 8,000 service members reinstated with back pay and benefits and advanced in rank if they had a promotion board in the interregnum. This is a whole brave new world, as Aldous Huxley once said. It's the left is really. I think Trump is just buffeting them with so many things that it's hard for them to respond. You see these people like Joyless Reed trying to make sense of this and complaining about things that nobody's behind them. 66% of Americans in every poll that comes out now strongly, not mildly, strongly endorse Donald Trump's position on deporting illegal aliens. Not just criminals, but that's what they keep on defaulting back. They always try, oh, okay, all right, well, you're just going after the hardened criminals. Oh, okay, but the other people are fine. No, they're a criminal too. What do you mean they're criminal? Well, they violate our sovereignty. It's a felony. Yeah, but they didn't do anything wrong. They violate our sovereignty. They came in the country. It beggars the imagination. But this is who they are. And they don't understand why they've become irrelevant and they're losing power everywhere. Now, having said that, it's not like we have, 70% of the Congress is full of conservatives who are patriots. We've got more like about 30% full of patriots, right. About 51% that will vote the direction we need to go. We need that to be 70% so that everything's a hammerlock. Well, we've got a lot of work to do. Scott Pressler, get out there, turn New Jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to show you how just sad the Democrats are, Representative Dave Min from California, freshman congressman, he said that the current press secretary is a fake Christian, like so many in the Golden State administration. Like he said, they called her out, fake Christian, all this stuff. But these are people that denigrate Christians, people of faith, whether they're Jews, whatever. But what's so funny, and I don't mean funny in a hilarious way, but in a pathetic way. Way is you have Democrats that have been calling out for years now, especially going back to October whenever Israel was attacked, being very anti-Semitic, but then all of a sudden want to say that Donald Trump is Hitler. It's like, no, what you guys were doing is exactly what Hitler would be cheering for crying out loud.
Yeah, no, they're such hypocrites. First off, inflation isn't real. Oh, it's transitory. It'll end soon. Then it goes on for 4 years. Well, it wasn't our fault. It wasn't real. It's come down.
Trump,
the rate of price increases has diminished, but prices are still going up. Inflation hasn't gone away. You took a 1.4% annualized rate under Trump, and you turn it into 30 or 40%, despite the government's lies. It's only 8 or 9%. And so the irony is this. We heard no news stories on CNN, MSNBC, in the New York Times, the Washington Post about the price of eggs. They barely talk about it. Price of eggs has gone from $1.69 a dozen to $14 in some places, and we hear nothing. Trump has been in office for 7 days, and they're running stories about Donald Trump has done nothing to bring down the price of eggs. First off, Donald Trump is not responsible for the price of eggs. The market is responsible. And the reason the market has driven up the price is because Joe Biden just killed 1.4 million birds. So there's less eggs available through a poultry cull because of bird flu. That's one reason. And the other reason is because the government is spending money like a drunken sailor. And every time Trump tries to stop the spending, they try to take him to court to keep spending money. The government has sucked all the money out of the economy, and they're spending it, driving up the demand for goods and services, and energy prices are up. All of that plays a role. When the government quits spending money we don't have, prices will slow down and maybe even a bit of deflation. And here's the other part. Now they're screaming about the prices not going down. I hope they realize that the pay rises that civil servants, that UPS drivers, that Lyft drivers, that factory workers have gotten, automobile manufacturers have gotten over the past 4 years are now baked into the prices of these goods and services. Do you think that the people that make these scenes can lower the price back to what they were when Trump was here before and still make a profit when they've had to give 3, 5, 7, 9, 15% pay raises and increase benefits? No, because their input costs have risen. So until their costs come down, and they're not going to come down for labor because who's going to take a pay cut? Oh, okay, prices are going down, so you can cut my pay by 20%. Not going to happen. So prices will never get back to where they were unless we have an economic collapse and a meltdown. So people have to understand that. And this nonsense of blaming Trump for eggs, it's just juvenile. They're so sad, so pathetic. They show how ignorant they are. Watching Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, maybe after about 6 Long Island iced teas, I might have considered dating her. But when I hear her open her mouth,
not now.
When I hear her open her mouth about economics, it's no wonder that she couldn't pay her credit card bill when she was a bartender because she's as dumb as a box of rocks. And frankly, that's an insult to rocks.
Yeah. It'd be like, oh, I made $3,000 this year. They go, or this month, excuse me. And then you go to your boss and say, well, I spent $4,000, so you need to pay me $4,000. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. Live within your means, AOC. Come on.
Well, and it's even worse than that. She's running around. Remember when she cried about not making enough money? She makes $172,000 a year in her federal salary, plus all the perks that she gets.
Yes.
Of the office.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't have to do this free postage. She gets to, she doesn't spend any of her money. I spent money on my own money to run for office out of my pocket. A lot of money.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Not because I'm rich, but because I felt a calling to do something, and I lost, so I don't recoup that money. She gets it all back. Any money she puts in, she can take it out from donations. It's perfectly legal. So she's not putting her own money into it because people are propping her up so she can spew her nonsense. Look,
Absolutely.
I mean, these people are wackadoodles.
Well, we do have some good happy news out of New Jersey. Disgraced ex-Senator Bob Menendez sentenced to 11 years in prison, and he wept and said, "Look at my service. I was a great senator, a great public service up
You
to
were
this point."
treasonous SOB the entire time. You should be in prison for treason. Count your lucky stars. You got 11 years for your fraud because you are treason. The death penalty should be in a place. Bob Menendez should be on death row. That's where he should be.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I agree. Why not? I mean, you're sold out this country for money, for cars, for gold. And then he tried to say, "Oh, well, that's my wife's," I'm like, well, your wife should also go to jail for the same thing. Here, Ethel Rosenberg, come on. Or put to death, like they were, right?
Well, and they tried to claim for years that they were railroaded, but we know now with the declassification of the Venona project that in fact they were guilty as sin. They sold us down the river. So many of these people sold us down the river. It's unbelievable. There's a reason why the Soviets caught up with us so fast. Is because we were being betrayed by these communists in our midst. Aldous, what's his name? Alger Hiss. He was a treasonous one too. So he went. And a lot of them never got caught.
Yeah, didn't he go from Yalta to Moscow or something right after the conference? I believe it was something like that.
Alger Hiss in the State Department. The list goes on and on. Of course, you had the famous ones in the UK with Burgess and all the others. But I mean, so many people who betrayed our nations, and we see it now. We see bureaucrats doing it and getting away with it. And then they act with such impunity. If I had the time, I would sit down and pull all these idiots up, like teachers in schools. Yeah, if they try to come in my school, you do this, do that. You do realize that you're just committed a felony on TikTok and on Twitter, and you've posted it. You're making it pretty easy for the Department of Justice to arrest you. I don't know if the Department of Justice has enough time to go after all these people. What's more frightening than that, John, is that those people are teaching our youth. No wonder this country is screwed up.
All right. Yeah, and it looks like Pam Bondi, she will be going to a full vote for confirmation.
Oh, yeah. No, she's gone. It was passed earlier.
Right. So, earlier. Go ahead, John.
I'm wondering if when Pam Bondi gets in, there's this law firm out of Maine or in Maine right now trying to coach schools how to hide their efforts with the with Holman and stuff, with the collecting of aliens and stuff.
Federal felony.
They're saying that they should maybe like destroy evidence. I'm thinking to myself, you're obstructing justice. You're literally a law firm instructing people to obstruct justice here.
Well, I mean, look, you honestly think that these people give a flip. The Southern Poverty Law Center is nothing but a front for Marxism, and the American Criminal Liberties Union only care about criminals. They don't care about American citizens.
Yeah, but law firm instructing people to commit crimes is incredible.
Well, who do you think's on the boards? Who do you think runs the Southern Poverty Law Center and the American Criminal Liberties Union? Lawyers. It's full of lawyers. Right. That's all they are.
Well, we got crooked lawyers in Congress too, right? I mean, geez.
Oh yeah. Well, look, Congress is 1/3 shyster lawyers, ambulance chasers, 1/3 used car salesmen, and 1/3 patriots.
So I do my research and stuff, and I'm looking at laws, and I'm looking at SCOTUS rulings. We have laws that are codified on the books that are actually ruled unconstitutional by SCOTUS. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, aren't these unenforceable laws? Why are they not repealed? Why are they still in federal law? And some of these laws consist of bump stocks. From my understanding, bump stocks were ruled by SCOTUS as being unconstitutional, yet they have laws. There's a law about how close you can come within a school with a firearm, ruled by SCOTUS as unconstitutional, but yet it's on the books.
Yep, absolutely. Did you guys see in Dalton, Illinois, that the mayor, Tiffany Hayward, who's been in
she got in a fight.
Got in a fight. I mean, she's got to be gone at this point. I mean, she's been embroiled in so many scandals up there. I mean, what's got to give for her to be ousted from office or arrested, for crying out loud?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the Democrat Party, but also Donald Trump is just this horrible, evil being who loves Americans and American citizens and is looking to make things better for not just Republicans and his supporters, but everybody equally and evenly, so everybody can have a chance, for crying out loud. But right on cue, as we knew, they were going to try to block everything he does. They're going to try to attack everything he does, call out everything that he does, twist it, and go back to their old playbook. It's like, it didn't work. You're out of power because your old playbook is bupkis, and people are wise to it, for crying out loud.
Well, and that's what's so comical about this. Sorry, John. What's so comical about this time is they keep trying the same thing over. It's the definition of insanity, and it's not sticking this time. Nobody's watching Joyless Read. No one's watching The Dystopian View. Nobody cares what they have to say. Even the Hollywood celebrities are starting to shut their mouths, except for Selena Gomez. Oh, my people! Oh, God bless.
Yeah. Oh, and I love that. Go ahead, John.
The only time they're paying attention is just to make fun.
Yeah, no, exactly.
They make fun of them.
We use them for memes and for entertainment purposes, but nothing they're doing is sticking. I mean, there's some obvious things we knew were going to happen. The birthright citizenship, we knew that was going to be legally challenged. Doge, we knew was going to be legally challenged. They're going to try that stuff, but only certain things are going to work. And look, they couldn't hire enough lawyers to keep up with all the executive orders that Donald Trump is issuing. My goodness, I can't even keep up with reporting what he's putting out. Every time you turn around, it's absolutely crazy. He's on a mission, and these fools are being exposed. I mean, look at it. The dollar's already strengthened. We've got some currency coming back into the economy. We've got promises from the Saudis to put $600 billion in foreign direct investment in our economy. SoftBank is going to put in $2 billion to invest in factories here. It's a golden age. Exactly right. You know, it's like I feel like the kid in Willy Wonka, man. I got the golden ticket. I had a great time to be an American.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And
What
then
a great time.
the RFK hearings, for crying out loud. The Dems, I mean, they used to like this guy, but now they're completely just unhinged. People that used to get along with him or were friends with him, now all of a sudden they can't stand him. He's the worst person ever. You know, never should even be considered. It's like had Joe Biden considered him, you would have confirmed him no problem on day one. But all of a sudden Trump considers him. Oh, you can't have that. He's a sellout. You know, he's a traitor or whatever.
But they love Trump
they're
too.
total frauds. Yeah, that's right. They did love Trump. They love Trump as long as he wasn't running for office and as long as he's giving money and holding parties, you know, for all these people to go to. No, they're just total frauds. It's so obvious when you see Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Oh, Trump just put tariffs on Colombia. Now we're gonna have to pay $8 for a cup of coffee. Really? And then we hear these idiots. You know, I hear them all the time. And I've said this for years. When I was at grad school over 20 years ago with Troy University, we were doing a thing over Facebook when it was new back then, and it was only for college students. And we were collaborating on a project, and someone said, "Well, we need illegal aliens because Americans, they won't pick strawberries." And I said, if I have to pay $1.95 for a quart of strawberries to take advantage of people and exploit them because they're illegally in the country and pay them a below living wage to pervert the wage scale in this country, then I won't buy strawberries. If it costs $7 for a quart of strawberries to grow them, to pay a living wage to American citizens, then I'll pay $7 and I'll just eat them less frequently. That's the problem. The soft bigotry of low expectations and exploiting people who are illegal. That's what the left is all about. They think it's okay. They're upset because they're gardeners. And don't you love this? Like, what's that idiot bishop or whatever she was there in D.C. at the National Cathedral? Well, my gardener and who's going to cook our fries? Like, shut up, you bigot. You absolute bigot. That's what you think immigrants are? Look, a lot of these illegal immigrants who are coming here aren't just criminals. Some of them have PhDs. Some are very educated, but they came here illegally. They have no right to be here. Get out. You're undermining the labor market. You're driving down wages. You're taking jobs from legal Americans, and you are polluting this country. And you know what? If that hurts someone's feelings, get over yourself, because truth is on the ascendancy, not the fantasy world you clowns have been living in for the last 20 years. Truth is on the rise. Truth is on the march. And no, it's not those those Quantico trainees who dress up as white militia groups and march lockstep, popping up out of the D.C. subway to get camera moments to pretend they're being arrested by the FBI, when we all know they're trainees from Quantico. Stop it already.
Right. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
did you say the bishop was complaining about her gardener and cook?
Yes,
I mean, she's got this because what's the church turned into?
Not hers, but she said, there are people here who are cooking, and they happen to be illegal, and I don't care. Go back to Tijuana, go back to Tajikistan, go back to South Africa, go back to Philippines. You got millions of people who came here legally, who earned their way here, deserve to be here. We have millions of tourists who come here. Hundreds of thousands, if not a few million, business people come here. Diplomats come here. People come here for all kinds of reasons, and then leave. They follow our rules and mores. Others immigrate here, and they're welcome. But you're not welcome. And the people that defend this criminality, they need to start being charged with crimes.
Right. Well, you've talked about this in previous shows, that people you were talking about whenever you were in Africa, that, my son's an American, so on and so forth. They're not subject to our laws, so therefore they should not be American citizens. They shouldn't have a passport just in case stuff gets south there, that they can escape to the United States. I'm sorry. It shouldn't work that way.
You talking about anchor babies?
No. Well, with that, but I'm talking about, a diplomat or a general or whatever who was in America.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. He shouldn't have an American passport. He shouldn't be an American citizen.
No, they're just here at the invitation of their government. They're not subject to our laws.
Right. Absolutely. But you think about this. I mean, how can they be an American citizen? Are they paying taxes here? If they do something wrong, are they subject to being arrested and tried and convicted here? Or is just the passport just a way so they can escape their own country whenever it goes south? And inevitably, a lot of those countries do.
So, look, I'm going to make an offer right now. I'll start a GoFundMe account to raise the money to help these people out. At this very moment, in Las Vegas, in front of the Trump International Hotel, which is actually in a little suburb of Vegas, but it's, you would know because you walk 100 feet, you're in another part of Vegas. But anyway,
right.
In Las Vegas, where the car blew up there, the Tesla, there are protesters waving Mexican flags and chanting "Viva Mexico" in protest of deportation of criminal migrants. So guess what? If you Viva Mexico and you love Mexico so much, the border is a few hundred miles south. We'll get you a bus ride. We'll drop you off and let you cross back over into Mexico. You have the audacity to protest pro-Mexico in our country. That's like me going to the Little League World Series and rooting for Taiwan. That's just wrong.
Right. Now, at the top of the last hour, we talked about the White House expanding access or whatever. Just since they announced that the other day, they've had 7,000 requests in basically a day and a half or whatever. So it's going to be probably tens of thousands of requests, I imagine, from everybody who has a podcast to anybody who does any sort of streaming show, for sure.
I'm sure. And like I said, chances of getting that passed is going to be infinitesimally small, because I already see how they're favoring Breitbart and Axios and sites like that. That probably some twit like Brett Cooper will get press credentials. Anyway,
They might give them. How many people are really going to show up? I mean, so say I apply for my WSMN, I get my credentials and stuff. I live up here 8 hours away. I'm not going to go down there and be in the press.
But I'm in driving distance.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you how they did it last time, and it was a short-lived thing. That occasionally they would basically lottery a few people that were friendly, I believe, and basically they'd say, hey, here's your opportunity. You want to come in? They'd bring them in for one briefing, and that was basically it. Or they would stream them in, and they would ask a couple of questions. But that only lasted just a few press briefings where people would do it kind of remotely, like we are. And it kind of went away. I don't know, why they didn't continue that. That would have been great to have, at least, some really true, if you had it as a true lottery where really good podcasters that are out there, that has a reasonable amount of following, that has good content, that's not just some crazy, throwing stuff at the wall stuff, bring somebody like that in on an occasion. I think that'd be a great thing.
Or why not just do something where they take questions, right? They sift through the questions to determine which questions are answerable, and instead of having a press briefing, we have to be live and in person. I mean, we live in the world of technology.
Right. Well, that's what they did. They rolled out the big screen TV and basically zoomed them in. Okay. Yeah, they zoomed in several people at the same time, and they would just ask them. They'd let them ask a question, and they'd move back into the briefing room. They'd let them ask a question, and they went back, and it only lasted just a few briefings, and it went away. So hopefully it'll be a little bit different this time, and you will have different voices and different opinions from the outside, not just the Washington media. The media scene who basically regurgitates the same thing all the time, spins the same talking points.
Yeah, no, I can understand too. Podcasting and stuff. So some guys like Chris have a natural talent, or Chris has just honed a skill, and there are guys out there that just are horrible at it. They're not gonna, to have them asking questions, it's gonna just be a waste of time, and so people tripping over each other may be problematic.
Yeah, you don't want somebody who has a podcast who wants to talk about, well, tell me, what do you eat in the afternoons? Do you have a snack?
We say this, but I mean, the questions that come from the legacy media oftentimes are no better than that.
Of course.
This is a good point.
That's true. That's very true.
And when I was in South Africa, I was credentialed there with the conference that was there taking place for forming a coalition. I know that the South African so-called journalists have a habit of asking 37 questions. Well, let me ask my question. This, and here's my second, here's my third, here's my fourth question. And then they take questions from 4 people, and then they go back and answer it. Nobody remembers what the question was a half hour before. So as a sign of courtesy, I said, well, I'm going to behave as a journalist is supposed to. Here's my chance to ask a question. I'm going to ask one question of one person. And please answer the question. And, and they didn't get the message. You guys still do the same thing. It's ridiculous. I was just... I attended a press conference 2 days ago from a political party in South Africa. It was the same thing. All right, here's my question. The guy asked 4 questions. Next person asked 3 questions. And I'm like, you got to write a novel for this stuff. Look, the journalistic standards in the White House press room used to have people like Britt Hume in the White House press room. I mean, that was a real journalist. Absolutely. Sam Donaldson was there. He was a real journalist. I didn't like him, but he was a real journalist. But you get people like Jim Acosta, whose name is perfect because he was accosting Trump all the time, accosting him all the time. It's a perfect name for that clown. But I did a little thing on Twitter because you can't do that on YouTube because of copyright claims. But I did a little thing on Twitter, and I took Jim Acosta's farewell address on CNN because he refused to come on at midnight. he got the hint. Anyway, so I took that and I interspersed it with some stuff. And the first thing is so I'm leaving CNN, and I played Trump's inaugural ball, YMCA and Trump's dance and all that. Young man, don't be sad, And then he went a little bit further. He's like, my proudest moment wasn't with President Trump. It was when I went to Cuba and questioned the dictator there, Raul Castro. And then I put a little thing in from the Big Bang Theory. I said, so did you get a second date? No. And Sheldon says, even I know that's lame.
I love it. Anyway, I want to go kind of overseas to kind of maybe reinforce our immigration here. But the German parliament, the Bundestag, passed the opposition leader's Friedrich Merz's symbolic 5-point migration plan or motion on Wednesday that would tighten Germany's immigration policy. And asylum laws, which I think is overdue there and in the United States. And if it can pass there, it can pass here for sure.
Yeah, the Germans have really undermined the security of Europe, not just of Germany. And this all occurred on Angela Merkel's watch, in which she just welcomed millions of illegal aliens to pour into Europe. The only country that fought back with any degree of success or even tried was Hungary. And they were presented as racist because they didn't want all these people in their cities. I'm watching during the break also a video here of landlords in Ireland who rented out their home to these illegal aliens. They completely destroyed. You can see it. They trashed their property. And then they're trying to beat the landlords when the landlords are trying to evict them. And these are some elderly people here, and they just assault them. And this is what Ireland has become. 16% of the population is foreign born, and it's being undermined. And they're reproducing, and they have none of the mores of the Irish. And Ireland is an emigration country, not an immigration country. This is backwards. For centuries, the Irish have fled the Emerald Isle, and now people are pouring into there, and they're surrendering their country to these people. And people can look at that any way they want. Because, the problem in England wasn't Pakistanis and Indians and Africans, Nigerians. That was a problem, but that wasn't the problem. The reason people voted for Brexit was because of Poles. There are 800,000 Polish nationals living in the UK when Brexit was finally voted in. And that's what drove the Brits to say, wait a second. Look, and those people are white, blonde hair, blue-eyed, Christians, Catholics mostly. And it wasn't because they were that. It was because they were foreign nationals who were taking jobs and driving down labor rates and filling up apartments and driving up rental rates for everybody else. And they saw it, and they said, enough of this. And so they tried to call them all racist.
They also were surrendering their own value. I mean, they were disadvantaged in the European Union. They had better currency value. They were going to lose out on that. They're going to have to contribute more money to the European Union than most countries because you had Eastern Bloc countries that couldn't contribute anything because they were too darn poor. So they saw a lot of disadvantages about being part of the union.
Yeah, that's true.
There we go. So do you think that the ODNI or Tulsi Gabbard is going to be confirmed there, or where do you see that one going?
I suspect Tulsi Gabbard will be the one that fails.
I think so too. I just don't think the credentials are quite there, and I would have to agree with people who say that it's not, but not for the reasons that the left is saying that she doesn't have the credentials. I mean, just look at the resume; it's really just not there. I don't think.
No, it's not there. I'm infinitely better qualified to be the director of national intelligence.
Yeah.
I'm just not a female Indian major from Hawaii, who goes on camera all the time. I'm not being facetious,
all the time.
Exactly. That fell in Trump's favor.
Yeah, it fell in Trump's favor. You have to add that piece too. But even before Trump's favor, she was in the favor of the media. They loved her when she was a Democrat until she ran for president, and then they hated her.
Oh yeah, because she called out Kamala, she called out Joe Biden, she called out their chosen candidates who were going to basically carry their water for them. She called them out on their BS, and next thing you know, she found a home in the Trump administration or within the Trump's orbit to basically stay relevant. I think. I think had Trump not won the nomination, she'd still be weaseling around with the Democrats, perhaps. I don't know.
I don't know about that. But she probably wind up as a host on one of these radio on these television programs like
Maybe
Fox or
so,
something like that,
yeah.
or Fox Nation. But the thing about Tulsi Gabbard is that now that they don't want her, the Democrats and the media and the left, they are pulling all the stops out. Now they're running stories in the Washington Post, New York Times about how she's part of a religious sect and they're a cult. And their leader from Hong Kong has been defrauding people for years, this, that, and the other. We never heard about this ever before. I didn't hear about this. Look, I heard about Ilhan Omar supposedly marrying her brother to, defraud immigration. We've heard about that story for years. But we've never heard the story about her and his sect involvement. But they're pulling all the stops out to stop her from becoming. But I think they don't need to, because if Republicans don't vote simply the way they're told to, they vote correctly, then they'll go, wait a second, this woman's not qualified to be the director of national intelligence. She has no intelligence community experience. The fact that she was a major in the Hawaii National Guard doesn't qualify her. She wasn't even intelligence. Wasn't she like a civil affairs officer or something like that?
Yeah, she had been in the military police, I think, as enlisted, and then became an officer. She was a specialist, never deployed as that, maybe deployed somewhere, I think Kuwait or somewhere. But they're promoting her as this big time combat veteran. I'm like, you're not really a big combat veteran. Let's not try to put that label on. Now, if you deploy, hey, good on you. You serve, you're a veteran by all means. But let's not try to inflate the resume to something that it's not. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I don't think she's there. Kash Patel, infinitely qualified to be the director of the FBI. Pam Bondi, fantastic qualified to be the Attorney General. Marco Rubio, not my first choice, but well qualified to be the Secretary of State. He's got more experience dealing with foreign leaders than most people in the Senate, because that's what he did. He traveled around all the time. And then the list of these picks is pretty impressive. What I have to say about the nominees, is that they are being coached and rehearsed brilliantly by Susie Wiles or whoever's behind it, because their I don't want to say performances, but their appearances before the committees have just been rock star worthy. And they it's like Hegseth was the one that was, I think, the most likely to fall apart, knowing Pete Hegseth, and it didn't. He did his job fine, and it was fantastic. But they know no shame, absolutely no shame. These senators and their behavior. The Republicans and Democrats should be asking legitimate questions about qualification. Quite frankly, this isn't even a constitutional process. The Senate can make these rules, but there's no requirement in the Constitution. Speaking of 917, there's no requirement in the Constitution that the Senate vet these people in this fashion. I mean, when I got promoted as an officer, a commissioned officer, that's required for the Senate's advice and consent. And I don't appear before the Senate, but these guys do. There's a handful of officers which are agreed upon. So it's all kabuki theater as far as I'm concerned. The only person in all these picks that I really have concern about is primarily her. And just because I don't think she's qualified for it. That doesn't mean she can't be in that administration somewhere else.
Somewhere else, right?
Congressional liaison would be a good job for her,
Right, absolutely. Well, since you talked about promotions today, in a memo signed by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, he says the U.S. military will no longer consider sex, race, or ethnicity when evaluating individuals for promotion, command, or special duty assignments. I think that's kind of past due on that. Folks, you're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. Also listen to us live, wsmn.live. We're live every Wednesday night, 7 to 9 Eastern. Of course, try to solve the problems of the world in a free-flowing discussion. What do we call it? Free-flowing discussion of ideas to solve the problems of the world, I guess. We try to do that. But, hey, it makes us feel good regardless if we solve the problems, I think.
We're never going to solve the problems. But
there you go.
We can talk about them.
Makes us feel good,
I got to bring up this, guys. Tucker Carlson apparently made some statements about Biden administration trying to put hits on Trump, but Russia picked it up here recently at some, I don't know if it was a summit or some international thing they were at, and there was a parliament member of Russia who adamantly stated, as a matter of fact, that the Biden administration was involved in not just hits on Trump, but Putin or other members or presidents of different countries throughout the globe. And I'm wondering if you guys had any thoughts on that, or if you heard any more details on that.
Go ahead, Colonel.
No, I don't really have much to say on that.
I just thought it was kind of interesting. He put it out there pretty adamantly here, just earlier today, I think.
Interesting, yeah. But a lot of moving parts. I mean, there's a lot of people that still needs to be confirmed. A lot of people still need to be appointed to the administration. But going lean and mean this time, the Trump administration is trying to do, keep it a tight group, if you will, and control the message and force the agenda. I think that's kind of the way to go. I mean, you don't have to go in heavy. You just go in with people who are ready to get things done and go as hard as they can. I think that's the right move. Get people who are the right for the positions. Let them run with the agenda and basically have some carte blanche to do what they need to do, as long as it falls within the Constitution and the agenda. I think that would be a great thing with the second term, I believe.
Well, you know what's going to happen? We're going to have a lot of agencies that are going to lose a lot of headcount, and they're going to cry they can't do their job when they don't realize that they've created needs for people because they've created positions that are not necessary. I mean,
Right.
I could have trimmed down the Defense Intelligence Agency's Analysis Center staff by 2/3 and produced as good or better intelligence than was coming out when I was there. And I'm
Right.
talking about military and civilian slot. These things are fat and heavy, these agencies, and they don't need to be. And a lot of people, I found it interesting because when Graham Rudman Hollings was the law of the land, and there was a federal hiring freeze that went on for years back in the day, the federal workforce was whittled down to about 1.4 million. I'm reading different estimates. It's 2.4 to 3.2 million people working for the federal government. That doesn't include contractors who are doing the work because the government can't hire someone else. It's insane how many people work for the federal government. And what does that mean? The federal government does provide some services that are necessary for Americans, but much of what they do is oppress us. We don't need more IRS agents. We
No.
don't need more, park police. We don't need that.
No.
We need functioning Federal Aviation Administration, a functioning military, functioning intelligence service, functioning FBI, but not to go after abortion clinic protesters,
No.
but to go after terrorists and criminal
or,
aliens.
or school board parents who speak up, you said something we don't like, we got to come after you. Or if you happen to be near Washington, D.C. on January 6th, just a few years ago, your cell phone pinged off of a certain tower, we're going to come to your house and get you. You didn't even go near the Capitol. You just happened to ping off because your hotel was somewhere nearby. You pinged off a tower that was close to the Capitol. We're going to come get you.
Yeah.
It's sick and sad, but I'm optimistic that we're going to get to in the right direction. It's going to take more than just 4 years. So, Trump's going to do, I guess, what he can, but at the same time, it's going to take every American to be vigilant. We can't just sit on the sidelines anymore and say, oh, he's got it. Because I remember last time whenever he was elected, listening to so many people say, oh, Trump's got it, and it's like, no, you need to stay involved here because in 4 years, there's another election. And the Democrats are going to come out even harder and stronger. And we saw what they did in 2020. And we saw what they tried to do in 2024. And they did it to their own party. You don't think that they would do that to you just the same? Come on now.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's the people's country. You're supposed to be involved. You're supposed to be actively involved.
For and by the people. Yeah.
Do your due diligence. It's not up just to the president. It's up to us to inform the president of what we want. We were supposed to do that before we put him there.
Well, it comes back to what Joni was talking about earlier, that people don't realize they have agency. They think that the government gives them rights. No, the government cannot take your rights. They're your natural rights. You have agency to do something, to get involved. I mean, not to keep coming back to it, but folks like Scott Pressler, who said, I'm going to go out and get people involved and did it. Now he's famous and he's connected to people politically. It's people have to stand up for what's right, moral and just. And that's what's so frustrating. It irritated me with the social media thing because, we've talked about this before. When social media needed people to become big and draw talent and draw viewers to their platforms to make money before they became successful and profitable, like Facebook and YouTube and all these other platforms, they tolerate all sorts of things. But then once they were making money hand over fist, they started playing the little leftist games. And people didn't stand up for other people, and they were silenced. And for me, it was tough because when the likes of Tim Pool and Steven Crowder were on YouTube and these other social media sites becoming famous, I was still a serving intelligence officer. I couldn't run around and do that sort of thing. By the time I got to enter the space, it was censorship central. And I was shortly after I come on. Yeah, I was censored. It's frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got these guys that, are certainly no more intelligent than the average person out there. But they got in, like you said, they got in there. They got a lot of followers, and somehow they had the platform and people listen to them. It's like, these aren't people that I would probably turn to for advice, but a lot of people follow them. So therefore, it's a platform people want to go and be on. So it gives these people some sort of, air of intelligence, legitimacy. There you go. Yeah, it gives them legitimacy, which it's not. It shouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's and look, I'm not speaking ill of some content creators. My point is that
no, of course
it's become very skewed. I mean, what's Brett Cooper's qualification to talk about anything she talks about. And I see this all the time when you hear people talking about, and they discover things like they didn't even know this, they didn't know that. I mean, honestly, it frustrates me, Todd, because I wasn't kidding. I took that oath, and it wasn't just a paycheck. And it was, 36 years. I mean, I knew I'd never be a general. I didn't do it to be a general. And I didn't do it to become famous or wealthy, although I got a little bit of the famous there for a while, a couple of times, but not infamous, famous. But, I did it because of a calling. And, and to see people that really don't know the Constitution, that don't understand our system of governance, that don't understand economics, that don't get strategic communications, act like they do because, they're slightly cute or attractive, or they say funny things and they glom on to subscribers. It's a little frustrating. It really dumbs down the conversation. Look, I'm not saying you can't be entertaining. I try to entertain and be humorous on my program, but you ought to have some substance behind what you're saying, is what I'm saying.
But what I've noticed from so many people, you go out and you talk politics, or you try to talk policy for them in a political sense, maybe running for office, you see this glaze. It just kind of, they gloss over. It's like, I don't want to follow. I can't follow. So you see these people that come out and hit the high points, if you will, hit all the buzzwords. It's like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah. And maybe you inject a quote from somebody that's going around the news or social media. And it's like, oh yeah, we love this guy. And it's like, he didn't say anything, or she didn't say anything, but the things you wanted to hear. But somebody that came up and started talking about policy and in-depth, intelligence or whatever the case may be, glosses right over. And it's like, I don't understand that. Vote for the person who understands it for real.
What you're talking about is emotional manipulation. If they can bring a person to an emotional state of mind, they can control what they think or their actions, what they're going to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
You're right. And it's oftentimes a popularity contest. When my social media presence took off in 2020, before the censorship kicked in hard, beginning of 2021 after January 6th, I could see that a lot of people were glomming onto my content because they were hearing what they wanted to hear. It was affirmation, self-fulfillment of what they were looking for. And a lot of them that were watching my content really didn't get what it was all about. They just liked what they heard. They didn't know why, because they didn't, and they were hearing for someone. But I got to tell you, it may be frustrating that people don't know the Constitution. It may be frustrating that people don't understand our natural God-given rights, that they don't understand the system of governance, they don't understand economics. But it makes it so easy to be smarter than a lot of people. I'll tell you that. It really does. Right. It's a pretty low bar on some issues, I mean, when I mention natural rights, I have people complaining, well, what about my right to free speech? Someone was taking pictures in our canteen, of staff, and they were told you can't do that. And then I talked to the person about it, I said it's inappropriate. Well, what about my freedom of speech? What do you mean freedom of speech? What freedom of speech?
Private property. Sorry, buddy. Private property.
There are posted rules to begin with. You can't take pictures of our staff, because I know what they're doing. That they're passing around, just like people do anyway. So. Yeah, but my freedom of speech. It's not your freedom of speech, buddy. Go to Lowe's and sit in the movie theater and start yelling fire and see how long you have freedom of speech before you wind up in handcuffs.
Absolutely, and you should, because you're going to create a mass panic and a stampede. You don't get to put other people's lives in harms with your speech or anything like that. Sorry, you don't get to threaten people.
Well, the issue with that isn't that you're not exercising your freedom of speech, but you're inciting something.
Right. You're causing a public
it's
harm.
Not meant for speech. It's meant for
public
harm. So yeah, that's why.
Right. It's not a question of speech. It's public harm. You can say that, but there are consequences to it. But I think I need to correct it. I think the only place where people are panicking right now is amongst illegal alien communities around America.
Right. Oh, I saw this the other day, and it was somebody legitimate. It was on social media. Somebody has a lot of followers that posted a picture, and it was like, somewhere a Hispanic, young girl is hiding in the attic, waiting to be found, like Anne Frank was. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Anne Frank was in her country legally. She was just trying to survive, because they were coming after her to kill her because of her religion, because of who she was, because she was Jewish. We're not coming to kill anybody. We're just coming to take somebody who's here illegally, especially the criminals with MS-13 tattoos all over, people who've killed multiple people who don't care to kill you or your grandmother or your kids, anything like that. They don't care to rape your 5-year-old, your 3-year-old, whatever they want to do. They don't care. That's who we're coming after first. And if you broke the law and came to this country illegally, and that's the only thing you've done illegally, yes, we're going to come after you later on. But, at this point, self-deport. This is the time to self-deport. You've broken our laws. We need to look after Americans first and foremost.
What you need to do now is transfer your bank accounts from the Bank of America, which is illegal alien friendly, to your bank account in the Caymans or in Greenland or wherever it is you come from, and secure yourself a rental or a property where you're going back to, and then kindly get yourself out of the country before we find you. Because when we find you in 6 months, 18 months, 2 years from now, and you're deported for being a criminal alien invader, the sympathy level for, well, my kids are in school, I just bought a house, is going to be zero because you have no right to be here.
We're American taxpayers are paying for your kid to be in school here, and you're overburdening them as it is, and you're degrading the level of education we can give to American citizens of all races, and we can't have that. I'm sorry.
Well, it goes back to this whole thing, but illegal aliens pay taxes. So what? So what? Whenever I travel to a country abroad, I pay taxes. Maybe not income taxes, but I pay value-added taxes. I pay fuel taxes. I pay accommodation taxes. I pay all kinds of taxes. It doesn't give me the right to vote in South Africa or in Ireland. It just means I pay taxes. And if you pay income taxes here in America because you've stolen someone's Social Security number, you're committing fraud. So that doesn't give you a right. It's like, illegal aliens or even legal aliens should have the right to vote because they pay taxes. If you're illegally, you work for Wells Fargo in New York City, you don't get a right to vote. You're not a citizen. Citizenship. No. And that's why I like Starship Troopers. Would you like to know more? Citizenship comes with benefits,
Yeah. I love that. Oh, like whenever he comes to the tent and he goes, "We need it muster in 5 minutes," and he goes, "Make it 10." Because he's in there. Yeah, they were. Yeah, you know what they were doing. Yeah, but that was the funny part. I love it.
It's an ugly planet. It's a bug planet.
Yeah, and the bugs basically were a replacement for any race or any peoples on Earth. Basically, yeah, it was a metaphor, if you will, I guess.
We're going to we go now live to Clendathu.
I love it.
Infantry. MI.
Yeah.
MI does the dying, air does the flying.
So
funny.
Previously,
Fleet does the flying.
Danny made a comment regarding to what we were talking about earlier, and he says Congress could vote to call militia to protect the homeland from enemies, foreign and domestic. Truth of the matter is, President Trump, under Title 10, Section 253, states that the president may use the militia, the armed forces, or both, or by any means necessary to suppress an insurrection or rebellion within the United States. And we've done laws that states refuse to enforce. So it goes on with a great deal of power just for the president. He doesn't even need Congress.
No, we don't. And we don't need the National Guard. We don't need the militia. And stop with the posse comitatus nonsense that people are going to bring to us, the leftists. The reality is this following. The president can use the military to fight an insurrection against all enemies of foreign and domestic. It's very simple. Very simple. Shays Rebellion.
Yep.
And also the Whiskey Rebellion. The only time the commander-in-chief actually led his army. George Washington got on horseback, rode from Washington to Carlisle, Pennsylvania. They organized the army at Carlisle Barracks. They marched to Western Pennsylvania. But by the time they got there, the Scotch-Irish were like, okay, we'll pay the tax. We'll pay the tax. Don't shoot us. Don't shoot us. And the rebellion was over. But that was an insurrection, and the federal army was used to suppress it. Shays Rebellion, same sort of thing. So these idiots that say you can't do that, we've also used the U.S. Army to escort black children to public schools in Little Rock, Arkansas, to enforce Brown versus the Board of Education to end segregation. We've also used the Army and the Marines, hurricanes, forest fires to stop the riots in Los Angeles. You want to talk about law enforcement? It doesn't get any more law enforcement than that. We've been using the Department of Defense on the border for 40 years for JTF 6, JTF 5 to do counter narcotics, intelligence, and support. So we can use the military. These people do not know the law. They do not know the Constitution. Do not listen to them because they're idiots. And I'm talking about generals, I'm talking about politicians, and I'm certainly talking about the media because they don't know what they're talking about. It's perfectly legal to do it. And guess what? It's perfectly legal. By the way, here's the other one, guys. Oh, what about how much it's going to cost? Do you know what it costs to put illegal aliens into hotels in New York City every day? And what it costs to put in schools and the illegal flights, flying them without real ID from Texas to Tallahassee, Harrisburg, and Albany under the Biden regime. This has cost us hundreds of billions of dollars. It's going to cost less than that to fly all these criminals out of the country. So get over yourself. And by the way, the Air Force pilots need the hours. They got to get qualified. So it is going to kill them to fly back and forth. They just gain a lot of frequent flyer miles. Get over yourselves. And I'm tired of hearing the guy from Columbia going, oh, it's degrading, humiliating. Well, we fly in C-17s. We don't find it degrading, humiliating, and we serve with honor for our country. We didn't invade your country. So shut up and take them back.
Yeah, I've flown around the world and did many, many countries on the back of a C-17, and you're back there, you're cold, and then you're hot, then you're cold, then you're hot. Oh man, all around the world, many, many hours refueling